today I want to talk about how to get around Disney World without renting a car or without, bringing your own vehicle for transportation. So the best way to get around Disney without renting a car really depends on where and when you're trying to get to different places. Disney offers a ton of free transportation options. So I'm going to give a little bit of a breakdown of what some of your best options are and when they would be your best option. So first of all, Disney offers free buses. Every resort hotel offers bus transportation to the theme parks, the water parks, and Disney Springs. And depending on where it is that you're trying to go, for the most part, buses are going to be your default. Basically the rest of the post is going to be showing you all the times that something else would be better than a bus. But the vast majority of the time, if you're going from your hotel to one of the theme parks, or even from theme park to theme park, then the bus is probably going to be your best bet, except in the following cases. So Disney also has a monorail system. This connects Magic Kingdom and the Ticket Transportation Center, which is the Magic Kingdom parking lot basically, with the Contemporary Resort, Bay Lake Tower, which is the vacation club resort that's attached to it, Polynesian Village, and the Grand Floridian. All of those just make one big loop on the monorail. So if you are staying at the Contemporary, Polynesian, Grand Floridian, and you're wanting to go to Magic Kingdom or Epcot, I would take the monorail. That is going to be your best bet. A lot of times when they have these alternative transportation options, they don't offer buses because these other options are more efficient. The only times they might offer a bus is if it's down, if they know the monorail is down for some reason, then some of these you can walk straight into Magic Kingdom, but the others they might pick up a bus route temporarily until the monorail is up and running. Another option is there is quite a few water transportation options around Disney. They have their friendship boats, and they have the Magic Kingdom ferry, and they have what they call water taxis. And so here's kind of a breakdown of those. So if you're in the Magic Kingdom Resort area, which is everything that we just mentioned that the monorail is on, but also additionally Wilderness Lodge and Fort Wilderness, those are part of the Magic Kingdom Resort area, but they are not on the monorail, but they are on the boat route. I have an entire post dedicated to taking the boats around between these resorts and to Magic Kingdom and the Transportation and Ticket Center. So another option, if you're staying at any of these places, because Disney offers boats, and for most of these they offer the monorail, they do not offer buses to Magic Kingdom. And then there is also the Epcot Resort area. So this is Epcot and Hollywood Studios. In between both of them is Boardwalk, Yacht Club, Beach Club, Swan, and Dolphin. So if you are in those areas, there is a boat that will connect all of those together. So again, Disney does not offer bus transportation between these places because you can either walk or take a boat. You could even take the Skyliner. So there is already another method of transportation. So in this case, you could take boats between these areas. And then the last boat area is the Disney Springs Resort area. This connects Disney Springs with Saratoga Springs, the Treehouse Villas, and Port Orleans, French Quarter, and Riverside, and Old Key West. So again, they don't offer bus transportation between these because they have the boats. There are times that the boats cannot run due to weather or some other conditions. In that case, they will provide buses temporarily, and you'll be able to find that out either at the front desk or even at the bus stop. They will have a cast member out there to kind of help direct you. Another transportation option that Disney has, all of these are completely free, is the Skyliner. We have a blog post here that has a deep dive of everything about the Skyliner, but in general, it connects Hollywood Studios and Epcot to Art of Animation, Pop Century, Caribbean Beach, and Riviera. So if you are staying at any of these resorts and you're trying to get to any of these parks, they do not offer buses because they have the Skyliner as an option. If the Skyliner goes down because of weather or maintenance or whatever, then they will temporarily offer buses, and they will make it known to you how to go about doing that. And then another thing too is there's a ton of places that are actually walkable as little as 5 minutes to 15 or 20 minutes. but here are some examples. So if you're staying at the Contemporary Resort or Bay Lake Tower and you want to go to Magic Kingdom, you can just walk right up. It is like less than a quarter mile. It's literally right there. Same with Polynesian and the Transportation and Ticket Center. You can walk between the two because they are connected. So if you're at Polynesian and you want to go to Epcot, it's going to be faster for you to just walk over to the Transportation and Ticket Center and hop on the Epcot monorail than to go hop on your monorail, take it to the Transportation and Ticket Center, then get off, then transfer to the Epcot monorail. Just walk over there. It takes 5 minutes. Grand Floridian to Magic Kingdom also has a walkway that you can get there and back. Anytime something is walkable, 99% of the time, that's going to be your fastest option unless you have like small kids, or if you're pushing someone in a wheelchair, that might slow you down. But for the average visitor, it's just very convenient to be able to walk and not wait. Like if you just missed a bus, it could be 20 minutes until your next bus gets, walking you can kind of do on your own time. The Saratoga Springs and Treehouse Villas area is connected to Disney Springs. You can walk there and back. You can technically also walk all the way to Old Key West from there as well. There is like a bike path, walking path that goes like across the golf course. It's not very commonly used, but when the boats were down, I think it was like last summer for a couple weeks because it was kind of like a drought. My sister and I have walked that path. We've done bike rentals up and down that path before. So that is also an option, but that one is a little bit farther, but definitely still doable. Anything Boardwalk, Yacht Club, Beach Club, Swan, Dolphin, Epcot, Hollywood Studios, that is just one big route. The farthest points would be Epcot and Hollywood Studios, and it would take about 30 minutes to walk that distance. But if you're already at like any of those resorts, then it's like maybe 15 to 20 minutes to Hollywood Studios, and then Epcot is like right there on the backside of the boardwalk. So that is like, 5 minutes or less, depending on where your room is located. Art of Animation and Pop Century are also connected. The Skyliner station is right in between the two. It's like on this bridge. So those two locations are walkable to each other. Port Orleans French Quarter and Port Orleans Riverside are also walkable back and forth to each other. They are along the same water route and they're just right next door. And then Riviera and Caribbean Beach are also walkable. They're right there, like on that same body of water as well. Another way to get around Disney if you don't have your own car is there are some paid rideshare options. So 99% of the time, there are, Disney's free transportation options will get you to where you need to go in a relatively timely manner, or you're able to walk between a lot of places. But there's a handful of times that maybe you want to use rideshare if you're on a time crunch, or if you're going from like hotel to hotel and they're not connected by anything. Like they're not on a Skyliner, they're not on a boat route, they're not on the monorail route. So the only way would be to take a bus from your hotel to a theme park, and then from a theme park to the hotel you want to go to. Sometimes that can be long, so sometimes you can just choose to pay for rideshare if in the interest of time, if you would prefer that. I do have a full blog post about using rideshares at Disney. You can use Uber, you can use Lyft, they're very common. But if you're not super familiar with it, or if you have like kids or something, I highly recommend the minivans. These are actually driven by Disney cast members, so they're very vetted and they know what they're doing and they're very well trained. Your typical Uber or Lyft driver is just a person that decided they wanted to do it and, got approved, and they may or may not know the area very well. So with minivans, much more like safety and security wise for a family for sure. They also hold up to 6 people. Your typical Uber or Lyft would be for 4 people, or you'd have to upgrade to a larger size to accommodate more. And they also include 2 car seats for no extra fee. Mostly with Uber and Lyft, you can request a car seat you have to choose like that specific option, and that's usually just one. So with Disney, it's nice that you get you can only go to places on property with these. And what's also great is the minivans accommodate wheelchairs and ECVs, and obviously they have room to like pack up your stroller too. So it's nice for a variety of different things like that. You go into the Lyft app to use a minivan. And then an honorable mention here, I talked about bike rentals. These can't really necessarily be used like for transportation. It's not like those scooters you rent in the city where you can pick them up and drop them off wherever you want. Though that might be kind of a good option for that. They should think about doing that with their bikes, because that bike path that I mentioned before is if you rent them from like French Quarter or Riverside, you can, go from one to the other. But then like you gotta take it back. It's for a set amount of time, and you can't just like ditch your bike. Like you're renting the bike to ride it around. Same with how I mentioned Disney Springs, Saratoga Springs, and Key West. That's all connected by a bike path. That would be cool if you could pick up and drop off at whatever place you wanted, just use it as a transportation option. And then you can also rent bikes to do like the boardwalk loop. They have those Surrey bikes, the ones that you have like the bench seats with the cover, and you can ride those around. So there's bike rentals that you can get around from places. And you could stop and have someone, go in and grab a drink, like a non-alcoholic drink, since you're, operating machinery, or grab a snack while the rest of you like stay with the bike or something. So you can kind of use it that way, but you can't just like ditch them and drop them. So sometimes a bike rental could be useful for that. So now I have just some tips and tricks that are kind of like the top 3 things to kind of keep in mind if you don't have your own vehicle to get around Disney. So beating the crowds is obviously top priority, I would think, for a lot of Disney visitors. So if you want to rope drop the theme parks, which would be being there the second that the park opens. So if the park opens at 8 a.m., different forms of transportation start running a certain amount of time earlier than the park opens. It kind of depends on where you are, but they will tell you. But if you get there like 30 minutes before it starts running, then you'll be pretty early in the line. This is especially important if you're visiting like Christmas week, New Year's week, spring break, marathon weekends. There's kind of some more higher capacity times. If you get to that bus stop, the Skyliner station, the boat dock, 30 minutes before it starts running, people will be starting to line up at that point. But you will guarantee that you'll be getting on that first piece of transportation out to the park. You'll pretty much be getting there the same time as everybody. The parking lot, so the people that are driving in, the parking lots open an hour before the park opens, so that is when they're able to park and start lining up. Remember, you have the convenience. A lot of these resorts are walkable to different parks, so if you're staying in the boardwalk area, you can walk to Epcot and Hollywood Studios, so you could show up at any time you wanted if you really want to beat the crowds and be the first person. If you're staying at Magic Kingdom or if you're staying at Grand Floridian or Contemporary, then you can just walk straight up to Magic Kingdom as well. They all have security, so you won't be able to get past security until security opens, but you can at least be like up there ready and waiting on your own time, as opposed to, relying on Disney's transportation. But yeah, being there 30 minutes earlier than when things start is a good start for trying to beat the crowds. Here's a picture of all the bus stops now have these screens that will show you the time, the weather, and all the different places that the bus can take you and when the next bus is scheduled to come. It's not 100% all of the time because things always change, but it's just a good guesstimate, so you're not just sitting there wondering, is a bus ever going to come? Second tip for kind of speeding things along is just fold your strollers and wheelchairs once you like get to your bus stop, or once you're like waiting on it, or once you're there, like in line waiting, just fold it up. If you're waiting until you're about to get on and they are telling you, fold up your stroller, fold up your wheelchair, that's holding everybody else up. And imagine how many kids are at Disney, how many people are bringing strollers or wheelchairs. If everyone's doing that, that just makes everything tremendously slow for everybody. So if you can get your stroller and or your wheelchair folded up as soon as possible for the transportation that requires it, please do that. An example, the ferry from the Transportation and Ticket Center to Magic Kingdom, you don't have to fold a stroller, you don't have to fold a wheelchair, everybody just goes straight on. But some of the other, like for the buses, you're gonna need to fold them up. You can't just leave your kid in the stroller because it just takes up all the walkway space and no one can fit. Now, if you are not able to like get out of your wheelchair, then they can load you up the ramp and everything. So like if you can't physically get out of it, then obviously that's different and they have steps to handle that. But if your kid can get out of the stroller and if you or someone in your group can get out of their wheelchair, just fold it up so everyone's ready to go. And then another tip is to resort hop during your vacation. So if you're going to Disney for a week, you don't don't necessarily need to stay at the same hotel all week long. My family's been vacation club members like since I was in high school, and I've just gone to Disney multiple times a year for vacation like my whole life, and I worked there and I've lived there. So really the best thing to do is to resort hop. So for example, we would do 2 to 3 nights at either Boardwalk, Yacht Club, Beach Club, Swan, or Dolphin. And on those nights, we would be going to Epcot and Hollywood Studios like the next day, so we can just walk right up. And then when we want to go to Magic Kingdom, we book one of the monorail resorts or Wilderness Lodge or Fort Wilderness for a night or two. And then when we want to have like our fun days like Disney Springs and the water parks, then we'll stay in the Disney Springs resort area. So Saratoga Springs, Old Key West, Port Orleans, French Quarter, and Riverside. So you can move around to property throughout your stay so that you can conveniently and quickly get to the places that you want to go. I know some people just like to unpack everything and just stay for a week. That's fine too, but this is just a helpful way to get around the easiest and the quickest. There have been some recent changes. This can always continue to be updated though. So security for the monorails, they used to just have security at the park entrance of Magic Kingdom, but now security is before you even get onto the monorail. So every one of the monorail resorts and the transportation and ticket center, that's where you will go through security. Magic Kingdom does still have security at the front for the people walking in from the Grand Floridian or walking in from the Contemporary, but they've just widened it out rather than having everyone go through security once they get up to the front. So that is just something to keep in mind. It's very common for people to want to do like a monorail resort hop type of day just to check them out and like go to the different like restaurants or bars. And you will have to go like keep going through security like every single time you get onto the monorail. You know, you're just walking straight through a metal detector. It's not really tedious. It's just something to keep in mind. One thing about these metal detectors is that umbrellas will go off every single time. So you have to, I wonder if I can get it into the camera. You have to like hold it in front of your body like this away from you. And a lot of them will tell you like if they see you like carrying the umbrella or they see it on your bag, just walk through like this, holding your umbrella away from your body, and then they'll see that it's triggered away from your body. So then you'll be able to get through and you won't be pulled to the side for extra inspection every single time you're carrying around an umbrella. Sometimes though, I mean, it is kind of busy and they are like, you know, watching multiple things, so like they may not catch it. That's why yours went off, and you might still get checked anyway, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not a big deal. So if you are traveling with a wheelchair ECVs are the motorized scooters, or stroller, here is a little bit just additional context for using Disney's transportation options when you don't have your own vehicle. So buses do accommodate all of these. They are limited in how many like motor scooters they can accommodate at a time. Different buses can hold different numbers. It depends on if it's an older or newer bus. Usually they can hold at least 1 to 2, but some of them are made to hold 3 to 4 now. So you won't usually have to wait for multiple buses if you have an ECV, but if you're going like right when the park closes or right when the park opens, there may be a line and you may have to wait, unfortunately. If you find that it is going to be a long wait or you don't even want to deal with the possibility of that, I would schedule a minivan and just pay for them to take you since they can accommodate it. So monorails also accommodate all of these things. Each monorail car can only fit so many, but I've never seen the monorail like turn away ECVs other than the monorail itself is full for everybody. But if you're able to, you don't have to fold up strollers or wheelchairs on the monorail, but if you are able to and it's super busy, as long as like, you know, don't sleep a waking kid to do it necessarily, but like, you know, if you're able to make more room, try to make as much room as possible during these busy times, but they do accommodate all of these things without you needing to like fold them up or anything. For the boats, it depends on what type of boat you're taking. So for the ferry that takes you into Magic Kingdom, you can take all of these straight on. You don't have to fold anything up. There's plenty of room for everybody. The cruisers, these are like the covered and enclosed boats that you see. Some of the Magic Kingdom resorts have them, and then the Epcot ones have them. These can accommodate all of them. as well. Sometimes you may have to transfer out, but you can at least like bring all of, like usually for the ECV you don't necessarily have to transfer out, but like wheelchairs and strollers you can bring them on, but usually they want you to transfer out of them. And then the water launches or water taxis, those are all the other small boats that just, they're the ones that aren't covered. They look older. Those can't accommodate the ECVs at all. You can bring on wheelchairs and strollers, but you have to be able to transfer out of them because you have to be able to fold them up and just put them out of walkways. The Magic Kingdom resorts are the only ones that have those types of boats. But again, we have all the details about that here. These types of boats are the ones that you can't take ECVs on at all. The Skyliner is also fully accessible for wheelchairs, ECVs, and stroller. They even have a special loading area if you need special time boarding and unboarding. That kind of like, it takes your little gondola out of the track while the rest are still going, and then it'll just seamlessly add you through like once you guys are ready to go. Again, for rideshare, Uber and Lyft themselves wouldn't necessarily be the best option, but if you go through the Lyft app to order a minivan, they do accommodate ECVs, and regular minivans also have room to fold up a wheelchair or stroller to put in the back. So yeah, so I would default to minivans if you're on property and you have a stroller, wheelchair, or ECV with you. So transportation options, if you're going to the airport or other places like off property and you don't have your own vehicle, because all of Disney's transportation will only take you around Disney and nowhere else. So here are some other options that you could use as well. So the Lynx bus system, this is the public bus system for Orlando. They have stops at the Transportation and Ticket Center, which is essentially Magic Kingdom, and at Disney Springs. And then you can follow the bus route. I have it linked here to see which routes will take you to where it is that you need to go. There's also shuttles like the Mears Connect shuttle for airport pickup and drop off. It's free for children under 2. At the time of writing, it was $13 for kids, $16 for adults each way. It's a fairly reasonable price. It's also the Sunrail, which is a commuter train. It goes through the Orlando and Kissimmee area. It doesn't have any stops in Disney World, but if you're taking like one of these other ones and getting out, and then you can take the Sunrail to, various other places. The iRide trolley goes down iDrive, which is International Drive, and that's more so like the Universal area. It's not connected to Disney World, but again, if you take one of the other transportations out over there, then you can use the iRide trolley to get, the iRide trolley to get around. Some of the places that it goes to is Icon Park, the Outlet Malls, the Convention Center, and Universal. And then they have this thing called the Limo Downtown Circulator. It's a bus that runs through downtown Orlando. It's 30 minutes away from Disney, but you can get to Lake Eola or the Phillips Performing Arts Center. If you're needing to go to any of those places, you can again take one of the other options to get you off property and then take the Downtown Circulator to where you need to go. Greyline Orlando is a tour company that can take you on excursions, and so they can come pick you up. Some popular ones is Kennedy Space Center, which I have a whole post on, and airboat rides in the general area. The Brightline is a high-speed rail that runs from the Orlando airport all the way down to the East Coast, to Miami. Again, it's not connected to Disney, but once you're in the Orlando airport area, then you can take these other options to get on to Disney. And again, also just, regular Uber or regular Lyft will take you to where you need to go as well. So is it better to rent a car, bring your own car, or use Disney's free transportation? It really depends on a lot of factors. I personally don't care for driving if I don't have to. So on like all of our family vacations growing up, a lot of the times we would just take Disney's transportation or book hotels so that we were in walking distance to a lot of things we wanted to do. Sometimes it's more convenient to drive if you are going from like a resort to another resort so that you don't have to take multiple forms of transportation. But if you're at Disney and you're looking to save some money, you can definitely take Disney's free transportation options pretty much everywhere you're going to need to go for your typical visitor. But we do have a comparison here on which one is better for your trip based off of all the different factors that you may need to consider with your group.